Welcome to the channel. To kick things off, I'll be doing a video series on building my future workshop. At the end of this, I'll share how you can get your hands on the free plans that accompany this series. But in this video, first I'll be talking about exactly what we're building and some tips on planning before the build starts. I'm building a workshop in the UK at the back of my garden. At a size of 3.5 by 4.7 meters, it's not the biggest workshop out there, but it's still a good size. It'll be fully insulated to be comfortable all year round and built to last, so no rotting wood after a few years of sitting in the rain. Since I'm building a workshop, there's a few design choices made so it best serves its purpose. But if you're building a garden home office or a summer house to relax in, a lot of this stuff will still be a good framework to get you started. One of those design choices you'll see pretty much right away is the door's not centered but to the right of the workshop. This is so it's easier to pivot longer materials in and out of the workshop. If you're building a summer house to relax in, you may instead choose to go with some big fancy bifold doors, letting in more natural light. But for me, a set of large French doors will be less expensive and less tragic if I break a glass pane. I'll point out more tips and design choices throughout the series, but for now it's probably a good idea to start thinking about how you'll use the space before you start building. If you're building a space this size, you'll at least want to have electrics for lights and sockets. Other services to think about though would be water or internet via an Ethernet cable. As part of the prep work, I've added a 5cm conduit with armoured cable inside, marked with electric warning tape, buried along the garden to where the workshop will be. The benefit of this is I can add or upgrade some of the services going to the workshop. If you're doing this yourself, take a few good pictures to show the electrician when it comes to sign off, as they'll be more willing to do so if they know the cable's deep enough and has been properly marked out. I've put in a pretty hefty 6mm cable for electricity, but if I need more I can always pull it out and replace it without digging up the garden again. There's calculators that'll help determine what size cable you'll need, as it depends on the workloads you'll be doing and the distance from the consumer unit in the house. I'll drop some of these in the description below. You also need to consider how deep to bury these services. Electric cables are recommended 45cm down or really deep enough that it's unlikely you'll be digging through them. For water, it's recommended around 80cm down to prevent it freezing over during the winter. A big question many of you will be asking is, how much is this going to cost? In this series, I'll do a running total of the main costs involved, but there'll still be other factors making this potentially cheaper or more expensive for you. I'm budgeting around 6k, but this will vary depending on if you're DIYing or getting builders in. If you're DIYing, it also depends on what tools you already have at hand. Then there's where you're getting materials from and what prices are like generally at the time. At this prep work point in the build, the material costs for me are £100 for the conduit, £115 for the armoured cable, £7 for the electric marking tape, and then there's also £300 I spent for a 6-yard skip to take away the wood and rubble from the old shed. Some of these may not apply to you, or unlike me, you may need to spend an extra 20 quid to get a spade, if you don't already have one, to dig the trench for the electrics. Second-hand marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree are always a good place to pick up tools you don't have. You can always resell them if you don't intend on using them after. Throughout the series, I'll make a note of where money can be saved or splurged, an example being the doors and windows. Fancy new bifolds or second-hand French doors will make a difference of hundreds, if not thousands. There's loads of other places to get ideas and information and even ask questions, and I wanted to point out some of the notable ones I've come across when researching. The first and obvious one is YouTube. You're already here and there's plenty of other channels that have summer house or workshop build series. Ali Demick, Summer Ray Builds, Garden Room Guru and Rag and Bone Brown are some of the channels I've plucked ideas and methods from for my own build. Then I also have to give a huge shout out to the UK workshop forums. There's a whole area for workshop builds filled with quality information, and the community there is incredibly friendly, helpful, with people that really know their stuff. Then there's even some books I've got thanks to my wife. After seeing me engrossed in workshop research for months, I was kindly gifted The Book of Shed and The Life-Changing Magic of Sheds. Both nice laid-back evening reads to help you get inspired on how your build could turn out. Now for the plans. I've seen quite a lot of content on similar builds and done the research to take the best bits, root out some of the bad practices, and highlight some of the best tips for my own plans. The plans to build a workshop as I am are freely available online. They include the build steps, diagrams, and materials needed. If you're in the UK, the plans also cover planning permission and building regs, if you need them or if you can build under permitted development. If you're outside the UK, you may need to double check the building rules and regs in your area. As I progress through the build, the plans will also include photos and lessons learned, so these plans will only keep getting better as time goes on. If you want to get even more out of the plans, there is an upgrade option that unlocks more tips and reasoning behind some of the design choices, so you can see if they really apply to you. But the main benefit, you'll be able to update the workshop dimensions, which are then reflected in the diagrams, materials, and design choices in the rest of the plans. So at the very least, go check out the free version, as that should give you plenty to get started with if you're also looking to do a similar build. That's it for this video. In the next one, I'll be getting started with the build and pouring the foundations.